Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something really cool. We are going to trace one of the most fascinating, complex character arcs in cinematic history, pulling directly from the original dialogue of a true masterpiece. We're charting the dramatic and honestly almost inevitable transformation of Michael Corleone. We're going to watch how a man completely steps out of his own life and right into the dark shadows of his father's empire. So, let's look closely at the anatomy of the script to understand exactly how that happens.
Okay, let's dive right into this. That's my family, Kay. It's not me. This opening quote is how Michael introduces himself to his girlfriend, Kay, and really to all of us. He tells her this rather dark story about his father, Don Vito Corleone, and his fearsome enforcer, Luca Brasi, forcing a band leader to sign away a contract by literally holding a gun to his head, making him an offer he couldn't refuse, right? But right after telling this story, Michael firmly draws a line in the sand. That's my family, Kay. It's not me. He's a decorated war hero. He's an outsider by choice. So the big question we have to answer today is, how does a man who wanted absolutely nothing to do with the mob become its most ruthless, calculating leader?
All right, Section 1, the family business. We're looking at structure and power.
To really get Michael's fall, we kind of have to understand the world he's desperately trying to avoid. Under Don Vito Corleone, this isn't just some street gang. It operates almost like a shadow government, built heavily on old-world principles of loyalty and respect. Take the opening scene, where Vito rejects a guy's plea for murder simply because he didn't offer friendship first, or call him Godfather. It's a deeply political power structure. Michael actually explains this to Kay at the wedding, pointing out his adopted brother Tom Hagen and his role as the consigliere, essentially the family counselor, an advisor. Don Corleone relies heavily on logic, political influence, and judges he carries in his pocket like nickels and dimes. Violence is just a tool, used only when negotiations fail.
And this brilliantly illustrates what happens when that careful strategy breaks down. A narcotics man named Virgil Sollazzo, backed by the rival Tattaglia family, approaches the Corleones for financing and political protection for a new drug operation. Vito, ever the long-term thinker, refuses. He knows drugs are a dirty business that will just alienate the politicians and police who protect his gambling operations. But Vito's eldest son, Sonny, speaks out of turn. He actually verbally interrupts the meeting to ask about the Tattaglia family's guarantee. It's a tiny slip, but man, it shows Sollazzo that the Don's heir is interested in the drug money. This fatal flaw, Sonny impulsively showing his hand to an outsider, directly sparks the brutal conflict that follows.
Moving to Section 2. The war begins. The escalation of violence.
Let's move to the timeline and see how this builds. Because of Sonny's slip, Sollazzo realizes if Vito is just out of the way, Sonny will totally take the drug deal. The refusal to finance the operation acts as the immediate catalyst for a bloody war. The script tracks a rapid, terrifying escalation of violence. First, the family's most feared enforcer, Luca Brasi, is murdered, sent back as a message that he sleeps with the fishes. Next, the unthinkable actually happens. Vito Corleone is shot 5 times in the street. The Corleones strike back, executing their own driver, Polly, who sold the Don out, and then hitting Bruno Tattaglia in retaliation. The family is suddenly under siege. And who is the one forced to step up when Vito is lying totally unguarded in the hospital? Yep, Michael, the civilian.
Section 3. Point of no return. Michael steps in. Michael rushes to the hospital only to find his father completely unguarded. The police guards were pulled off by a corrupt captain named McCluskey. Michael manages to hide his father and bluff away Sollazzo's hitman, but when McCluskey arrives, he punches Michael right in the face, breaking his jaw. This physical assault permanently shifts Michael's perspective. The legitimate world he believed in, it completely failed him. Back at the family compound, the horrific realization sets in. Sollazzo will never stop trying to kill their father. They have to get Sollazzo, but he's now being guarded 24/7 by Captain McCluskey. Now, to kill a police captain is an absolute taboo that will bring the heat of the entire underworld and the police down on the family. But Michael volunteers to be the triggerman anyway. When his brother Sonny laughs and tells him he's taking it too personal, Michael responds with this legendary quote, "It's strictly business." He adopts the mob's defining mantra to justify cold-blooded murder. The college boy has crossed the threshold.
The script then meticulously details the procedural steps of Michael's first major crime, exactly as instructed by the family capo, Clemenza. Step 1, they plant a noisy, untraceable gun behind an old-fashioned toilet at Louis' restaurant in the Bronx. The tension here is just incredible as Michael executes the plan perfectly. He retrieves the gun, comes out, and shoots Sollazzo and McCluskey in the head. He drops the weapon and walks out fast. With those few pulls of the trigger, Michael severs his ties to the legitimate world forever.
All right, Section 4, Exile and Loss. Tragedy strikes.
That assassination triggers a massive crackdown from the police and an all-out war among the New York families, which forces Michael into exile in Sicily. But during this exile, both sides of the ocean see devastating losses. In New York, the hot-headed Sonny is set up and brutally gunned down at a toll causeway, leaving the family without its wartime leader and a strong heir. Over in Sicily, Michael finds temporary peace and marries a local woman, Apollonia. But betrayal finds him there too. A car bomb meant for Michael kills Apollonia instead. These immense, back-to-back losses completely strip away any remaining innocence Michael had. And back home, the death of Sonny forces a grieving, weakened Don Vito out from his sickbed.
Section 5. The Peace Summit. A strategic retreat.
Knowing the family absolutely cannot survive this war without Sonny, a grieving Vito swallows his pride and calls a summit of the heads of the 5 families. At this meeting, Vito basically executes a strategic retreat. He quickly agrees to the negotiated terms. Traffic in drugs will be permitted, provided it's controlled. Vito agrees to share his political protection in the East with the other families. In exchange, the war ends, and most importantly, Vito demands strict assurance that Michael can return home safely with the charges against him cleared, swearing on the souls of his grandchildren that he will not break the peace.
But what's really interesting about this slide is the vital revelation Dito has at this very meeting. While Philip Tattaglia was the one backing Sollozzo on paper, Vito looks around the room and realizes Tattaglia is just too weak to have orchestrated such a massive war against the Corleones. He realizes the true puppet master behind the entire conflict was the incredibly powerful Don Barzini all along. And this gives Michael the exact ultimate target he needs for the future.
Which brings us to Section 6, the new Godfather. Consolidating power.
Michael finally returns to America, a changed man. He sidelines old advisors like Tom Hagen because he isn't a wartime consigliere and asserts total authority over the family business. Before he dies, Don Vito passes the torch entirely and shares one final incredibly vital piece of advice. He warns Michael that Barzini will eventually move against him, and he'll do it by setting up a meeting through someone Michael absolutely trusts, guaranteeing his safety. Vito tells him whoever comes to you with this Barzini meeting, he's the traitor. So when the trusted capo, Tessio, approaches Michael shortly after Vito's funeral with an offer to mediate a peace meeting with Barzini on his own territory, Michael instantly knows exactly what has to be done.
This sets the stage for what is honestly one of the most brilliant climaxes in cinematic history. Michael agrees to stand as godfather to his sister Connie's baby. During the baptism, the priest asks Michael if he renounces Satan and all his works. Michael, standing right there in the church, calmly says, "I do renounce him." But the script juxtaposes these sacred vows of a religious godfather with the shockingly ruthless actions of a mafia godfather unfolding at the exact same moment.
This brilliantly illustrates Michael's absolute, cold-blooded consolidation of power. While he literally renounces Satan in the church, his assassins carry out simultaneous hits across the country. Don Barzini, Philip Tattaglia, Mo Green, Strachey, Cuneo. Every single rival standing in the way of the Corleone family is wiped out in one fell swoop. Michael doesn't just win the war, he annihilates the opposition entirely, achieving a terrifying level of dominance his father never even attempted.
But Michael doesn't stop with his external enemies. He ruthlessly cleans house internally too, showing zero mercy to anyone who crossed them. Tessio, who betrayed the family by arranging the fake Barzini meeting, is taken away to be executed. And then there is Carlo Rizzi, Michael's own brother-in-law. Michael actually confronts Carlo, forcing him to admit he fingered Sonny for Barzini's hitmen. Michael promises Carlo he won't make his sister a widow, tells him he's just out of the family business, and even hands him a plane ticket to Vegas. But the second Carlo gets in the car to go to the airport, he is garroted.
And that brings us to the haunting final moments of the script. Connie confronts Michael totally hysterical, accusing him of murdering her husband. When she's dragged away, Kay asks Michael point blank if it's true. Michael tells her not to ask about his business, but then says, "This one time I'll let you ask me." She asks, "Is it true?" And Michael looks her dead in the eye and lies, "No." Kay believes him. She leaves the room to get them a drink and looks back just in time to see the capos kissing Michael's hand, addressing him as Don Corleone, before the door is slowly, firmly shut in her face. The outsider is now the Don. He's got the whole shebang, complete power. But as that door closes, separating Michael from the woman he promised a legitimate life, we are left to ponder the true cost of his transformation. Did Michael Corleone save his family, or did he ultimately destroy its soul? Thank you so much for joining me to explore this incredible script. Keep looking closer at the stories you love, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.